Well, speaking of D.C., former President Bill Clinton is currently facing questions from the House Oversight Committee today about his relationship with convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. Today's closed-door deposition will make Clinton the first former or sitting president to testify before Congress members in more than 40 years. Clinton has denied any wrongdoing, but his name and his photos appear hundreds of times in the files that the Justice Department has released. In an X post just moments ago, Clinton released his opening statements and said he would not have flown in Epstein's plane if he, quote, had any inkling of what he was doing. It comes one day after his wife, former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, denied ever encountering Epstein during her testimony.
I don't know how many times I had to say I did not know Jeffrey Epstein. I never went to his island. I never went to his homes. I never went to his offices.
Chief Capitol Hill correspondent Ryan Nobles joins us now from Chappaqua, New York, where that deposition is happening. Ryan, it was really interesting when Hillary Clinton came out yesterday and said, look, you know, this was closed door. I wish it wasn't. I wish you guys could see the transcript. I wish they had this open so that you guys would know and I didn't have to regurgitate this information. But she also told reporters that her husband has nothing to hide. So what information is the committee ultimately expecting to get from Bill Clinton's deposition today that would be different?
Well, Morgan, I don't think there's any doubt. I think Republicans and Democrats would agree that Bill Clinton is a more interesting witness in this investigation into Jeffrey Epstein than his wife. But Republicans on the committee felt that there was enough of a connection to bring Hillary Clinton in and have her answer a lot of questions. But what she told the committee yesterday was a lot of the questions that they have would be better asked to Bill Clinton. And that's what we expect to take place here today. And in that X post where he released his opening statement, Clinton makes it clear to the committee that he has no knowledge of Jeffrey Epstein's crimes. He said that Epstein was a master at hiding those crimes. And one other thing he said that I think will probably be something that resonates beyond what we hear today is that he will answer, I do not recall, to a lot of the questions that Republicans will ask, because much of the events that they're going to be asking about his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein took place more than 20 years ago. I'm not sure that's going to be enough for Republicans. Listen to what they are expecting from this hearing today.
Yesterday, Ms. Clinton deferred a lot of questions to her husband today. We know President Clinton had, and Secretary Clinton confirmed this yesterday, Jeffrey Epstein was in the White House 17 times while Bill Clinton was president. We know that Bill Clinton flew on Jeffrey Epstein's plane at least 27 times. So those are questions that we're going to ask.
So it's pretty clear he's going to get those questions. Morgan, the type of answers that he provides the committee remains an open question.
You know, Ryan, Hillary Clinton spent nearly 6 hours answering questions about Epstein yesterday, but said Republicans went off topic during that time. She also described the questions as extremely repetitive. What did she mean by off topic?
Well, so she said that she was asked questions about UFOs, about conspiracies like the Pizzagate conspiracy, which has been widely debunked. But I do think that this is, to a degree, an issue of they said versus she said. The Republicans and the Democrats in the room describing two different versions of it, and the secretary describing a version of her own as to how this process played out. We won't know definitively until that video comes out, and that could come out as soon as today, Morgan.
All right, Ryan Nobles from Chappaqua. We appreciate it, Ryan.
We thank you for watching, and remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or watch live on our YouTube channel.